Rain washed over the city like it wanted to hide every secret people carried. A luxury sedan waited outside a glowing restaurant, its engine humming softly. Inside the car, Elliot Grant sat still, his eyes locked on the entrance. In his hand, he held a small velvet ring box, turning it with his thumb, as if afraid to open it. Tonight was supposed to be the night he asked Maya Rivers to marry him. Tonight was supposed to change his life, but the tight beat of his heart told him nothing about this night felt right. Through the wide restaurant window, he saw Maya in a gold gown that shimmered under the lights. She looked elegant and composed, but there was a tiredness in her face that only someone who loved her would notice. Something weighed on her, something unspoken, and then she laughed, bright and warm. But the laugh wasn't for him. It was for Victor Adeyemi, the man sitting across from her, the man leaning too close, the man Elliot had never fully trusted. The ring box grew heavier in Elliot's hand. Doubt pressed into him with every second he watched them talk. This wasn't the first time he wondered if Maya lived a life he wasn't fully part of, but the softness in her laugh, the way she reached across the table, as if forgetting the world around her, this cut him deeper than he expected. When Maya stepped outside, the night breeze lifted her hair. She wrapped her arms around herself, and for a moment she looked small, almost fragile. A stranger bumped into her by accident, and her purse spilled across the pavement. Elliot reacted before he could think. He opened his door, hurried over, and reached down to help gather her things. She didn't even look at him. "No, thank you," she said sharply, brushing his hand away like he was just another pushy driver. Elliot froze, his hand still half extended. Maya grabbed her things quickly and walked off toward her car, shoulders tight, eyes fixed ahead. Elliot remained there in the rain, water sliding down his face. But the cold he felt wasn't from the weather. It came from the sudden, painful thought that maybe he didn't know the woman he wanted to marry. Maybe he only knew the version she allowed him to see. And if that was true, what was he really proposing to? He walked back to his car and sat in silence before lifting his phone. His voice was firm, steady, almost too calm. "I need a favor," he said. "A cab, a real one, and someone to teach me how to drive it." He stared at his reflection in the mirror, eyes hard, jaw tight. A man on the edge of a decision he couldn't reverse. "If love is a test," he whispered, "I won't be the one to fail it." By midnight, he had a yellow taxi rented under a false name, a cheap jacket, a new identity, a plan that felt dangerous and necessary all at once. He didn't want to trap Maya. He just needed to know who she became when she wasn't performing for the world, or for him. Later, as he drove through the rain in the taxi, the ring box rested deep in his coat pocket. He didn't touch it. He didn't dare. It sat there like a quiet question. Was he searching for truth, or running from the fear of being betrayed again? The city lights shimmered across the wet windshield as Elliot tightened his grip on the steering wheel. Whatever truth waited ahead, he was ready to face it, hidden in plain sight, alone, chasing answers he wasn't sure he wanted. Elliot did not grow up wanting to test people. As a child, he had everything money could buy, but very little of what truly mattered. His father was a powerful tycoon, always in the news, always surrounded by important people. At home, he was distant. Then one year, everything fell apart. Headlines exploded with accusations of embezzlement and betrayal by someone the family trusted. Elliot was young, but he was old enough to feel the shame. In the end, the family name survived, not because the truth was clear, but because money made the problem disappear. That was the lesson Elliot carried into adulthood. Trust is risky, and love often hides something. As he grew older, Elliot built his own success, determined not to repeat his father's mistakes. He told himself he was different, more careful, more honest, but deep inside, fear shaped his choices. He didn't want a love that came with conditions. He didn't want to be chosen for his wealth or status. He wanted something real, and that fear followed him into his relationship with Maya. To the public, Maya Rivers looked perfect. She was calm, intelligent, and deeply involved in charity work. At fundraisers, she spoke with passion and kindness, moving easily through crowds. Reporters praised her heart and her beauty. Cameras followed her smile. But when no one was looking, small cracks showed. Her fingers tapped nervously against her phone. She stepped aside to take calls, lowering her voice as she whispered, "I'll handle it." When she returned, her smile was still there, but thinner, like it cost her something to wear it. There were others around them too. Chinwe, known as Chi, had been Elliot's closest ally for years. She was his chief of staff and his voice of reason. She knew his past, his fears, and the way betrayal had shaped him. When she sensed what Elliot was planning, she warned him. Testing someone, she said, could turn love into something cruel. What he needed was healing, not control. Maya's younger sister, Amaka, lived in the shadows of Maya's success. She was quiet, gentle, and struggling. Debt followed her like a cloud she couldn't escape. Maya loved her fiercely, but that love came with pressure. Maya was always fixing, always protecting, even when it drained her. And then there was Victor Adeyemi, a charming investor, a longtime friend. In public, he was supportive and easygoing. In private, his attention toward Maya lingered too long, his interest feeling less friendly and more possessive. Elliot and Maya's engagement was already public news. Interviews, donations, and social projects carried their names. A major business deal depended on Maya's image and influence. If Maya betrayed him, Elliot wouldn't just lose love. He would face public humiliation, and the collapse of a company meant to honor promises he made to his late father. So Elliot made a choice. He said he wanted to reconnect with the city. Quietly, under a false name, he rented a taxi. He learned the streets, practiced blending in, and stepped out of his world of privilege. Chi helped cover the legal details, even though it troubled her. Elliot told himself he wasn't trying to trap Maya. He just needed to know the truth before it destroyed him. Elliot's first night driving the taxi felt unreal. The leather seats and quiet drivers he was used to were gone. Now there was cracked vinyl, the smell of old rain, and a blinking meter on the dashboard. He told himself to stay calm. He was just watching, just listening. His first passenger was a woman in her 30s, dressed sharp, phone pressed to her ear. When she hung up, she sighed and glanced at him through the mirror. "Crazy world," she said. Elliot nodded, saying nothing. After a moment, she added, "You hear about that charity woman, Maya Rivers?" Elliot's chest tightened, but he kept his eyes on the road. "People like her," the woman continued. "They always pick the safe man. Money, protection, love comes last." She laughed softly. Elliot said nothing as he dropped her off, but her words stayed with him long after the door closed. Later that night, Elliot parked near a restaurant terrace, waiting for another ride. That's when he heard Maya's voice. She was sitting a few tables away, phone pressed to her ear, her body turned slightly away from the crowd. "I said short term," she whispered. "I'll send the document. Just give me time." Her voice wasn't calm. It sounded tight, rushed, almost desperate. Elliot's grip on the steering wheel tightened. This wasn't how confident people spoke, he thought. Or maybe it was how pressured people did. When Maya ended the call, she noticed the taxi nearby. Her eyes narrowed. She walked straight toward the car and knocked sharply on the window. "Is there a reason you're staring?" she asked. Elliot rolled the window down, his heart pounding. "Just waiting for a fare," he said. Then, without thinking, he added quietly, "You look tired, like someone holding too many secrets." Maya froze. For a brief moment, her mask slipped, her shoulders dropped, and exhaustion washed over her face. Then she pulled herself back together. "Mind your business," she snapped, turning away. Elliot drove off, shaken. That look stayed with him. It didn't look like guilt. It looked like someone carrying too much weight. Near the end of his shift, Elliot noticed a small brown envelope on the back seat. Someone had left it behind. He opened it, planning to turn it in. His breath caught when he saw the name inside, Maya Rivers. The paper held a lawyer's stamp and formal wording, temporary guardianship, signed. Elliot didn't fully understand the details, but he knew enough to feel alarmed. Legal papers meant planning, intent. He sat there for a long time, staring at the receipt. Was Maya hiding money, protecting someone, or preparing for something he didn't know about? Part of him wanted to confront her immediately. Another part wanted to expose everything and walk away. But a stronger urge pushed him forward. He chose to keep going. Elliot took more shifts. He learned Maya's routine without trying. Sometimes he was nearby when she struggled with a heavy door, and someone else stepped in to help. Other times he quietly returned items she dropped, never saying who he was. Once, during a sudden rainstorm, he left an umbrella beside her car and drove away before she noticed. He watched closely. Did she assume kindness came with strings? Did she look suspicious, or simply tired and grateful? Each moment pulled him deeper. He wasn't just observing anymore. He was testing, shaping outcomes. crossing lines he once promised himself he never would. At dawn, the city grew quiet. Elliot parked near the river and pulled the envelope from his pocket again. The words stared back at him, unchanged. He leaned his head against the seat and closed his eyes. I wanted certainty, he thought, but certainty is never given. It's stolen. And with that belief settling deep inside him, Elliot drove forward, no longer able to turn back. Night after night, Elliot stayed on the road. The city began to feel smaller, more familiar, like a puzzle slowly revealing its shape. From behind the steering wheel, he started noticing patterns he couldn't ignore. Maya often slipped away from events early, not to go home, but to meet her sister, Amaka. Sometimes they argued quietly outside buildings, their voices low but tense. Other times, Elliot saw Maya step aside with Victor, their heads close together, words exchanged in quick whispers. At shelters and charity centers, Maya gave her time freely, listening to stories, holding hands, offering comfort. But when staff slowed her down or questioned her decisions, her tone turned sharp. Some nights she was warm and selfless. Other nights she felt distant and transactional. Elliot couldn't decide which version was real, or if both were. The deeper he watched, the harder it became to stay neutral. One night, close to midnight, Elliot picked up a passenger near a rundown apartment building with flickering lights. It was Amaka. She looked exhausted, her eyes red, her shoulders slumped as if the weight of the world pressed down on her. The ride was quiet at first. Then she spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. Do you ever feel like you're drowning and no one can see it? Elliot glanced at her in the mirror. She stared out the window, not expecting an answer. Slowly, her story came out. She talked about debt she couldn't escape, about a lender who called constantly, leaving messages filled with threats, about the fear of coming home one day to find the locks changed. I messed up, she admitted. I trusted the wrong people. Her voice cracked. My sister keeps fixing everything for me, and I hate myself for it. I'm pulling her down. Elliot felt something break open inside him. This wasn't greed. This wasn't manipulation. This was fear and shame tangled together. When the ride ended, Amaka thanked him quietly and walked into the building. The next morning, an envelope appeared in her mailbox. Inside was cash, enough to cover part of her loan. No name, no explanation. It felt right and wrong at the same time. Elliot told himself it was just help, but deep down, he knew he had crossed a line. Chi noticed. She called Elliot into her office and pulled up security footage from the taxi company. This isn't research anymore, she said calmly. It's involvement. She warned him that if this became public, he would look like a man trying to control someone's life. If you humiliate her, she said, you lose the moral ground forever. Elliot listened, silent. I need the truth, he finally replied. Even if it costs me. Chi sighed. Truth without compassion becomes cruelty, she said, but Elliot was already moving forward. Late one night, Elliot picked up Maya as Sam. She didn't recognize him. She sat in the back seat, phone pressed to her ear, tears sliding down her cheeks. I told you I can't rush this, she cried softly. Please, give us time. Elliot's hands tightened on the wheel. She mentioned Victor's name, accusing him of pressure, of threats, of pushing her to transfer control of a foundation. I did this to protect her, Maya said. I didn't have a choice. When the call ended, she wiped her face and stared out the window, trying to pull herself together. Then everything exploded. At a high-profile charity gala, Victor confronted Maya in front of donors and cameras. His smile was smooth, but his words were sharp. He hinted that Maya had negotiated deals favoring investors over people. The room went quiet. Phones came out. By morning, headlines flooded the internet. Fiancée's deal raises eyebrows. Elliot read the headline again and again, his chest tight. His test had turned into a public fire. The pressure crushed Maya. Reporters followed her. Online comments turned cruel. Elliot was forced to reassure investors in closed-door meetings. He acted distant, calm, controlled. Inside, anger and fear burned. Maya called him again and again. He didn't answer. Silence felt safer. Around them, friendships fractured. Trust cracked. Amaka's apartment was still at risk, and Elliot realized his actions were causing real harm. Then came the legal shock. Elliot's PR team received a call from a lawyer. Someone had filed to freeze Maya's charity accounts pending an audit. A third party. The timing felt deliberate. Someone wanted chaos. Elliot wondered if Victor was behind it, or if someone was using Maya to hurt him. Exhausted and full of doubt, Elliot finally confronted Maya in a quiet side street late at night. No disguise, no taxi, just the truth between them. "You've been lying," he said, holding up the receipt. Maya's face hardened. "You watched me," she shot back. "You judged me. You decided you were God." Her voice broke. "You don't know what I've been carrying." Elliot accused her of hiding things, of planning behind his back. Maya collapsed against the wall, tears pouring freely now. She admitted signing temporary documents to secure emergency money for a marker. She admitted fear, but she swore she never did it for herself. "I was protecting my sister," she said. "Not stealing, not betraying you." They stood there, both broken, both guilty in different ways. Maya promised she would explain everything, but not yet. She needed time. Elliot watched her walk away, knowing the truth was closer than ever, and so was the damage he might never undo. The charity gala was meant to be a celebration. Cameras flashed, music played softly, and donors filled the room with smiles and raised glasses. This night was supposed to seal Elliot and Maya's future. Instead, it became the moment everything fell apart. Midway through the program, the lights dimmed. A large screen lowered behind the stage. At first, people thought it was planned. Then the video started. The room went silent. The footage showed Sam, the taxi driver, secretly recording Maya during private moments. Her voice echoed through the hall, talking about money, documents, and pressure. The video was edited to make her sound dishonest. Gasps spread across the room. Board members stood up, demanding explanations. Admiration turned into suspicion in seconds. Before Maya could defend herself, another shock hit. Reporters' phones buzzed all at once. Security footage had leaked online. It showed Elliot renting the taxi, wearing the jacket, driving the cab. Photos followed, credit slips, the ring box, pieces of his disguise laid out like proof. The truth crashed over the room. The taxi driver was Elliot. The test was real. Someone whispered the name already trending online. The Fiancée's game. Maya stared at Elliot like she was seeing a stranger. Lawyers rushed forward. The charity board began talking about removal and damage control. Just as everything threatened to collapse, a quiet voice cut through the noise. A marker stepped forward. Her hands shook, but she didn't stop. She confessed that she had falsified loan receipts. She explained that men connected to Victor had pressured her, using debt and fear to control her. To protect Maya's reputation, a marker staged transactions that made her sister look guilty. She even admitted forging one of the receipts Elliot had found. Tears streamed down her face. The room froze. The story flipped in real time. Maya hadn't been protecting herself. She had been protecting her sister. Victor snapped. He shouted that everything he did was in Maya's best interest, that this was how business worked, that Elliot had played God and humiliated everyone. When Elliot's security moved in, Victor fought back, his calm mask gone. As he ranted, evidence surfaced. Messages, threats, financial pressure tied directly to him. His confidence collapsed under his own words. By the end of the night, accounts were frozen and an independent audit was announced. Maya's charity was under investigation, but a marker's confession changed everything. Elliot's company took a reputational hit, and his name filled every headline. What began as a private test had become a public disaster. Later that night, away from the cameras, Maya confronted Elliot. "You didn't trust me," she said. "You decided who I was before you ever asked. You used my pain to test your fear." Elliot broke. He spoke about his father's disgrace, about growing up afraid of being used. For the first time, he admitted his test was its own betrayal. By morning, Victor was arrested for coercion and fraud, but Elliot wasn't free. Lawsuits followed. Charges were filed. The truth was out, but it came with a cost no one could escape. The days after the scandal were quiet, but heavy. Elliot moved fast. He hired independent lawyers and released a public apology that didn't dodge blame. He admitted the undercover scheme was wrong. He admitted he invaded privacy and crossed lines. Some people accepted it, others didn't. Online, opinions split hard. Some called him brave for owning his mistake. Others said the apology meant nothing compared to the damage he caused. Maya stayed silent at first. Then she made her choice. She stepped down from public roles connected to the charity, not because she felt guilty, but because she wanted to protect the work itself. She refused to let her name become a distraction. She also chose not to press criminal charges against Elliot, not out of forgiveness, but out of self-respect. She needed space, time away, peace that didn't come from revenge. Amaka started changing too. She entered counseling and began volunteering at a local community center. She took responsibility for her debts and made a plan to repay them honestly. For the first time, she stopped hiding. One night, she apologized to Maya through tears. Maya held her hand and told her something new. She said she would no longer carry everything alone. She wouldn't be the fixer anymore. She would stand beside her sister, not in front of her. Elliot began paying for his choices in real ways. He launched a transparent fund to repair the charity's finances and replaced board members with independent trustees. He accepted fines and civil penalties without fighting them. Quietly, he also started therapy. For the first time, he spoke openly about his father's disgrace and the fear that had followed him his entire life. He began to understand that control had been his shield, not his strength. Free from the weight of public expectations and a broken engagement, Maya found clarity. She started a small grassroots program focused on families struggling with debt and pressure, like hers once had. There were no cameras, no speeches, just real help. For the first time in a long while, she felt powerful in a way that didn't require approval. Weeks later, Elliot received a letter. Inside was the ring. Maya's handwriting was steady. She thanked him for loving her in his own way, but she wrote about boundaries, dignity, and trust. She told him love couldn't survive being tested like an experiment. Elliot read the letter alone. It hurt, but it was honest. And for once, he didn't look for a way to argue with it. Victor's prosecution moved forward. Evidence piled up. Amaka's confession reduced Maya's legal risk, and Elliot volunteered to fund Amaka's restitution without conditions. Justice didn't feel perfect, but it felt real. Nothing was magically fixed, but people took responsibility, and that was where healing truly began. The sun was just coming up when the doors of the small community center opened. The light was soft, gentle, nothing like the harsh flashes Maya had grown used to. Children lined up quietly, some holding empty backpacks, others clutching their parents' hands. Volunteers handed out books and warm meals. Maya stood to the side, watching. She wasn't smiling for cameras. There were none. She smiled because the work mattered, because these small moments felt real. Across the street, Elliot stood unnoticed. No security, no press. Just a man watching the life he almost broke slowly being rebuilt without him at the center of it. He waited. He didn't rush in. He knew this moment wasn't his to control. When the line thinned, he crossed the street and walked toward Maya. She noticed him and didn't turn away. He stopped a few steps back, careful not to invade her space. No ring, no speeches, just honesty. "I was wrong," he said. The words were simple, but they carried weight. Maya looked at him for a long moment. Her face held no anger, but no comfort either. "You knew how to destroy someone in private," she said calmly, "and call it truth." The words landed quietly, but they cut deep. She paused, then softened just enough to let the moment breathe. "We both have to learn to let people be." Elliot nodded. There was nothing to argue, nothing to fix. This wasn't a reunion. It was a boundary, and he respected it. He didn't come back the next day as Elliot Grant. He came back weeks later as just another volunteer. No one knew who he was. He carried boxes, cleaned tables, fixed broken chairs. He showed up early and left late. He didn't speak about the past. He didn't explain himself. He worked. Maya kept building. Her programs grew slowly, quietly, focused on families under pressure, people drowning in debt and fear like her own once had. There were no grand announcements, just progress, just people being helped. Amaka found her footing too. She took a job that paid honestly and gave her independence. She stood straighter now. She laughed more. She and Maya talked like sisters again, not like protector and burden. Some wounds stayed tender, some trust never returned, but life moved forward anyway. One morning, as the center filled with noise and laughter, Elliot stepped back and children arguing over books, parents thanking volunteers, life, imperfect and alive. He finally understood what he had been chasing all along. In his mind, his voice was calm for the first time in years. Trust is not a test you give. It's something you earn, slowly, by not making someone pay for your fear. The sounds of the community rose around him as the morning grew brighter. No grand ending, no perfect repair, just people choosing to do better, one quiet step at a time.